Hello everyone and welcome to Zach's Garage and another episode of Zach Chats. Now today we're joined with someone who is pretty influential in the London and England scene of social media, Mr. Paul Wallace. Welcome.
I was sitting really casually there. I was like, yeah, this is just so comfy here.
So comfy, I know.
We've got the smell of cars.
Smell of cars.
The one thing that the audience don't pick up is the smell. And when you walk into this place, it is like incredible.
Yeah, it's a shame because I don't think social media will ever convey the true sort of aspect of when you walk into a room like this. You can video the cars, but you'll never, when you're in the flesh of them, it's like a totally different thing.
Perspective of cars in the flesh is something that is almost impossible to pick up on camera.
Yeah.
As nice as it is, and as close as you can feel like you're there by watching the video, actually seeing the curves with your eyes,
it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And as you said, the smell matters so, especially with classics.
Yeah.
When you've got fuel leaking everywhere, and you're like,
really?
Petrol, oil. Oh yeah,
Didn't tell me that.
Just, they'll tell you, these are all wood. Replicas, yeah, it's all good. So, firstly, thank you for coming down. I appreciate
Thank you for having me.
It's
an amazing place. I've heard a lot about it, and I've seen some photos, and obviously you've sent me a bunch of stuff from here. And watching the reveal of this, you kind of get an idea of where things are. But then it's nice to be able to put what's the word? The location to my eyes.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, in terms of cars, you've obviously got some pretty cool cars yourself, or one very special car in particular.
Yeah. The pride and joy, which has actually not been driven for the last year, but it's still my dream car, a Lamborghini Murcielago LP640. It was the car that I saw back in like 2002. I got given a car book for Christmas, and it was the first car that I saw. Well, the original Murcielago, not the 640 because it wasn't out then. But I was like, how is that car allowed on roads? And so yeah, that was really the time where I fell in love with what road cars could look like.
Yeah.
And I'd never really been exposed to the world of supercars before. So to see the Murcielago, and then it was really that era that I was filming in London, that you could hear those V12s droning around Knightsbridge and Mayfair, that I was like, oh my god, there's a Lambo somewhere. I was like running after to try and find it. So those memories of almost like falling in love with supercars was definitely like that Mercy era. So to be in the position where I was in 2018 to actually buy one, I was like, I had absolutely no plan or strategy about how I was going to get to this point, but I knew that I always was going to get there, and to actually tick that box has been like a ridiculous part of my life.
And it's what I love, especially as a fellow car person. And there's so few people in the world who realise, loads of people don't realise, is that everyone had a poster car.
Yeah.
But to get that special car, that your dream car, I haven't even got my dream car.
What's your dream car?
250 Cal Spider. Because my dream car's unrealistic. Your dream car was realistic. The thing is that but to say that you've got a car that you've always dreamed of owning.
Yeah.
And to have that, you can drive Chirons, you can drive everything, but you will always get into that Murcielago and go, this is mine, this is special.
Exactly, and I think I've accepted the fact now that I won't own a better car. I think I'll own better cars as in their performance capabilities, but I won't own a car that is as emotionally connected to me as that. So yeah, like you say, I could go and win the lottery tomorrow and go and buy one of them or a Bugatti and like probably have more fun and think I'm even more of a baller. But the Murcielago, there was a story behind it, how I got to the point of owning it. And actually when you said, I don't think people quite know just what, and I was going to finish your sentence, how bad a Murcielago is to drive, because like it's a terrible car to drive.
But then on the same level, that same brand, the Countach.
Yeah.
Everyone always said it's a terrible car to drive, but I don't believe there's such a thing as a terrible car to drive, because if you get in your Murcielago expecting to drive an S-Class, you're going to think it's the worst thing ever.
Yeah, that's true.
If you get in the Murcielago, getting in and going, I'm about to get into this car, I mean, you
your
don't get,
expectations are going to be met.
And I'm sure you don't get the Murcielago going, I hate driving this.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you get someone who's only ever driven S-classes, they'll probably go, I hate driving this.
Yeah.
I can get in like the Pista, for instance, and go, this is amazing. I'll get in the Countach, people go, but the Countach is awful compared to it. No, the Countach is awful compared to a modern day car. Look at the difference in technology, in terms of suspension, engine wear. You know, you get in a classic car and it's like, it's got a personality to it. Yes, again, that personality may be horrible and it may give you nothing but nightmares, but it's got its own personality.
Exactly. And I think in this day and age where we are now, so many modern cars have that computerized, artificial intelligence feel to it that the characters are slightly getting lost. So having something like a Murcielago where I can get in it once every 3 days when the weather's as nice as it is and actually go for a blast and really get the best out of that car, that is what that car was built to do.
Absolutely.
Whereas then I go and get in the M2 competition and I just go from A to B in comfort mode and I'm like, what, hey, like, this is great. And like, they're two different cars, do totally different things. Like with everything here has got its own job. And they're all very, very different and unique, and we'll be able to get the different bits. You want to drive the Pista on some roads, the Regera on others, and then the Countach on.
Exactly. There's, everything's got its own purpose. I mean, it's that's what I love about cars. That's what made, I think, a lot of people petrol heads. Is the fact that every single car was useful at something. You wouldn't take an Aventador off-roading. Well,
I've actually maybe.
That could be a video. So, in terms of, you've been in the YouTube world, how many years?
Far too long. So I had a channel previous to Supercars of London, which was back in 2006, I would say, when I was about 15.
Is it still about?
I think it still exists.
Yeah. Is there some like
really embarrassing?
Really embarrassing. Yeah. You're gonna give it away, or is that?
I've given it away a few times on my YouTube channel.
Okay.
It's there for people to see. But there's no videos on it.
Right, okay, sure.
It's purely just the channel that exists. And I then set up Supercars London with a friend of mine in 2008. And here we are in 2020. I don't think I've ever said 2020. Everyone says 2020.
This is true, actually. That's a good point.
Yeah, 2020.
That sounds futuristic. That sounds like, God, you imagine 2020, that's going to be a long time. Yeah, actually, that's coming. This is,
It sucks.
What a year. Yeah, it sucks.
So 12 years. Then I went to university in 2010. So the channel had been going for 2 years. Those 2 years were predominantly spent filming in London. Then I went to university, so I was only coming back during the holidays and filming in London as much as I possibly could. Came out of university and really was thinking, all I want to do is create a sustainable and consistent income from making videos. That's the dream.
So that's interesting, because a lot of people didn't see the income, they just saw a platform.
Yeah.
You speak to a lot of YouTubers who started just for a bit of fun and suddenly they earn a lot of money. So you actually started to earn money, to earn a sustainable income?
Well, I'd previously been on YouTube pre-adverts. So that was where everything came from, and my hobby of just going in and filming cars remained the same. But it was when YouTube announced that you could get paid to upload, I was like, well, I upload on YouTube, so I should be getting paid as well. So I applied to get the whole payment scheme onto YouTube. And during university, I'd experienced it twice where videos went viral. So I was seeing pay jumps from like 150 quid per month to like 800 quid a month. So I was like, wow, how do I continue to make
this?
£800 a month?
Yeah.
So that was where the desire to create a consistent income came from. And it was only since I'd done 3 years at uni, I studied business management, so I kind of got an idea as to how I could potentially make it work.
Sure.
And my idea was, okay, the supercars come out in London in the summer, what do I film in the winter to sustain those videos and the views? Sure. So that was the first thing that I did. As soon as I came out of university, I spent the first 3 months every single day in London, but also speaking to various businesses that were local to me, that were in London, that could potentially benefit from my content, because this was back in 2013, where it was really early. and a lot of people didn't understand the world of social media, how it could benefit them, and there I am, this kid straight out of university going, come on, I can make a video for you, and they not know what was going to happen to it. Whereas now the shift between brands spending on traditional media and television and now spending it on digital social platform is shifting massively. And obviously in that time I've done some pretty crazy stuff and some cool stuff to get me to the point where some pretty amazing brands are then now coming to me and saying, hey, we want to collaborate and partner with you. Have you got any cool ideas that we can help make possible?
You got a list.
And I've got a list.
You got a list.
From when I was about 12.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, well, I want to drive this car in that country. I want to do this road. I want to drive this. I want to go on that track. And it's just a case of sitting down with Michelin and saying, okay, what do you want to achieve? And what do I want to make? And how can we find something in the middle that excites me, that gets your brand message across? And then that's where the fun stuff starts. And all of a sudden, I'm at Goodwood Festival of Speed driving a Koenig Zig or doing some crazy stuff like that, and that's what's cool.
Yeah. And so do you remember the first sort of, when you got in, not even necessarily when you got into social media, but when you started getting sort of an idea of the fact that you might want to get into the whole social media world, was there one event or one thing that you did that you went, this is something I'll never forget? Like, for instance, prime example, I drove David Coulthard around Goodwood in a C-Type. Yeah. That was one of the first videos I ever did. Yeah. Was there one thing that you did that you went, no, wow, you know,
probably not
road trip, or you know.
Yeah, not quite as cool as driving David Coulthard around.
No, but you've done cooler stuff than that. I can guarantee that.
The first ever moment that I knew that supercars were like my number one passion was I was in London and I got my first ever ride in a supercar.
Which was?
A Lamborghini Gallardo. And that was back in like 2007, maybe 2007. It was a 2005 Gallardo Coupe manual. Now, if you were to drive that now, having just got out of a Mercedes A45 or an M2 competition, you'd get in a Gallardo and be like, okay, it moves, but it's not that quick.
Yeah.
Like, back then, when I got a passenger ride in this Gallardo, I genuinely thought I was on a roller coaster in a straight downhill dive. It was the fastest thing I'd ever experienced. And I was like, I need one of these. And that was the moment where I just daydreamed about owning a supercar. So I think as soon as I had that experience and the hunger in my belly to be like, I don't care what it takes, I will work as hard as I possibly can to make that dream a reality.
Sure.
That must have been 2007. And since then, and everything that happened after university, the emails, the meetings, the phone calls, the work, the filming, the editing. I was running a consultancy social media company at the same time as I was running the YouTube channel so that I could bring clients in that could benefit from the videos. I could almost get their sponsorship, and I was building this platform, and I'd never known any different. When I came out of uni, a lot of my friends went and got Monday to Friday jobs. They were going out on the weekend. They were inviting me on bank holiday trips to Berlin and all of these places. I was like, I'm working, like, I've got to do this, I've got to do this. And I don't think I really properly took a day off. / I don't even think I've had a proper day off since.
Yeah.
Because even when I'm on holiday with the family or whatever, and I've got my niece on my knee and my nephew's playing around over there, I'm on my phone, I'm doing emails, I'm tweeting, or I'm on Instagram.
And I suppose not only that, you also, you know, you can be going out for dinner, and I find this. You see a car go past, you go, oh, take a quick photo.
Yeah.
I'm working.
Straight onto. It is a unique way of calling it work, but it's that phrase that if you love what you do, you won't ever work a day in your life.
It's a good.
And in a way, that's kind of the world that I've found myself in. But here we are, like you sit down for dinner and you know exactly what car's just coming around the corner because you saw it in the reflection of the mirror in the restaurant, and it's there, and you know that Ferrari's going to be coming around, turning left. You can see the indicator, and like it's just like my girlfriend's there going, Did you just hear what I said?
You're going, no, but I had the V10. Prime example. So the last video, or one of the videos, I don't know when this is going out, but one of the videos I did with Martin Ford, we were having dinner at his, and it was his family, it was his wife, his 3 kids, and it was my editor and me, and we were chatting, and I heard this, well, sounds sad, Lamborghini Huracan.
Yeah.
And
fairly iconic.
An iconic sound,
Yeah.
but when you're not a car person, it's surprising because as a car person, you can go Huracan or R8 instantly.
Yeah.
And if you hear some crackles, it's a Huracan.
Yeah.
So we're sitting having dinner, and I go, "That's a Huracan." He goes, "No, it's an AMG Merc because it's my next door neighbour's car." I was like, "No, it's a Huracan." He goes, "No, it's an AMG Merc." I said, "I'm telling you that's a Huracan." And he looks outside, and the Huracan goes past. He goes, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "That's what happens when you're a car person." You know. So, I mean, I want to touch on your business side, but I want to quickly, just so the viewers know, what cars have you owned? And you touched on a Gallardo. You've obviously had a Gallardo, which I think is very cool.
Yeah.
But so what, in terms of maybe in order, if you can, but what cars have you had? Not necessarily what was your first car, all the way up to your current car.
Okay. First car was a 2007 Vauxhall Astra 2-door SXI, which I always was like, they look cool and within budget. My mum always said, when you go car shopping, don't buy the first car you see. So I bought the first car I saw. Had that for like 3 years, sold that, got an Audi R8 V8 manual.
You went straight into an R8 manual?
Yeah.
Wow, okay, yeah, that's
I couldn't afford the fuel, I could barely afford the insurance. It was like a massive jump. Right, but I knew I had to do it because I was going to be able to create so much content on the car.
Sure.
So I did Vauxhall Astra to R8. Then I sold the R8 and bought a Lamborghini Gallardo LP560 Bicolore. So it was like one of these editions that didn't matter. It had a black roof, and that was it. But I bought that and I dailied the R8. That was my only car.
So you had the 2 cars at the same time?
So I part X'd the R8 for the Lambo and then panicked when I got the Gallardo. I hadn't picked it up yet. That I wasn't going to be able to daily the Gallardo. So I ran down to Watford Audi and I said, "What have you got that is insanely cheap per month that I don't have to put any money down as a deposit?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, we can get you into this A1, sick, it does this, and it's got this, that." And I was like, "Perfect, thank you." So I literally picked up this Audi A1 the day before I picked up the Gallardo, having no plans to have 2 cars. And all of a sudden I've got 2 cars. But it was like £160 a month, no deposit in. So I thought that I got myself a good deal there. Then I sold the Gallardo and bought a Mercedes AMG GTS. Loved that car. Sold the Audi A1 and bought BMW M3, F80 M3. So I had those 2 cars next to each other. Then I sold the Mercedes AMG GTS for the same price I paid for it, and I bought a Huracan LP580-2. Sold the M3, bought a C63 coupe, sold the Huracan, sold the C63, bought the Murcielago, and now I've just got the M2 Comp.
Wow, so you've had your experience of cars, you've had a lot of cars. You've got to, I think the thing that baffles me the most in that is the fact that you had an Astra and then went straight to R8. I think that's really cool. I've had a few friends that have done it, but it's... Do you remember the first time you drove a supercar?
The first time I properly... Can you class the R8 as a supercar?
See, I think it's the most underrated car out there.
Yeah, I think they're great. I think the whole package is... Yeah. So I couldn't actually drive the R8 before I bought it because I was 23.
Insurance.
And the insurance was 25. So I bought it without driving it. And I remember collecting it and I'd done the insurance, everything was sorted on the car, and I was doing my collection video. I was doing my first supercar, guys, this is it. And I had SB Race Engineering plates on the car, front and rear. Did the whole collection of it. And I was in such a fluster about filming the entire thing. I took the front plate off because I was like, oh, obviously it's visible.
It's a supercar.
Yeah.
One of the front plates on.
No, the SB plate. So I took the cover plate off,
yeah,
so that it revealed the actual plate of the car. And I jumped in, set the GoPros up. I was in such a fluster because I was like, oh my God, like I'm going to stall the car. I'm going to be absolutely terrified about flooring it. And I got about 20 minutes home, and then I was getting this guy like flashing me, and I was like, oh my god, like, I suppose this is what happens when you're in a supercar.
This is the best.
This is my new life.
Yeah, this is great.
And anyway, like, he pulled up to me at the lights. He was like, "You still got a cover plate on the back of your car?" And I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, for 20 minutes, I've been driving around SB Race Engineering, no plate. If a police car had pulled me over, it would have been the best first collection video ever.
Yeah, getting pulled over within 20 minutes of owning your car.
Yeah, but no, it was as unglamorous as I just didn't have my plate showing. So it was slightly embarrassing, actually. But yeah, the R8 was probably my first like fast performance sports car that I drove. What's quite weird though is I can't remember the first time I drove a Lambo.
Really? That's a good place to be.
That's really weird, isn't it?
You've driven so many Lambos, you're like...
No, but you'd think you'd know the first. You'd think you'd remember the first.
I suppose so.
I remember the first time I drove a LaFerrari, because it was about 2 days after
That came out of nowhere, go on.
My trail of thought was off the Gallardo, so I just collected my Gallardo. And obviously, huge excitement. I was just like... I could not believe that this had happened. Like, a dream of mine was to own a Lamborghini by the time I was 25. And so I collected this car, and then I got invited down to this dealership, and they were like, "Oh, I've got a LaFerrari." So we went out for a passenger ride in it so that I could film it. And we pulled over, and he was like, "You've got to have a go." And I was like, "What? I'm 24 years old, and you're handing me the keys to a LaFerrari?" I was like, oh, I can't say no, can I? So I like got in the car and I filmed it, and this was like 2 days after picking up my dream Lambo, and I've just jumped in a LaFerrari.
And like, you get back in the Lambo and you're like, ugh.
I was like, oh my god, I've just ruined entire Lamborghini ownership. But thankfully, I jumped back in the Lambo and loved it straight away.
Yeah, and that actually says a lot, because you know when you especially in the position we are in with this garage. The difference between all the cars, especially the two cars here, the Pista and the Koenigsegg, you hop in the Koenigsegg and you go, wow, nothing would compare to this. You hop in the Pista and you go, it doesn't compare to this, it's its own thing.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with the LaFerrari and the Gallardo.
Yeah.
You know, you hopped from an Astra van to an R8, then you hopped from a Gallardo to a LaFerrari. Eventually you'll be Elon Musk and fly a spaceship, you know, who knows, you know. But it's a funny world out there. I mean, in terms of sidetracking from cars a little bit, business-wise, you're clearly very switched on in terms of business.
Okay.
You're very switched on in general. That might have come across very rude, but tell us a little bit, I mean, as much as you can, as much as you want to, about your sort of business life.
Yeah, so it started, but like my general, shall we say, desire for entrepreneurship, or being a little bit entrepreneurial, was when I was at school. I mean, you always hear the stories about kids that would buy sweets and sell them at double the price. I would take my lunch money that my parents would give me, which was about £1.20. I would just go into a shop and I'd spend all £1.20 every single day, spend £1.20. And I'd get to school and I'd have already sold the sweets because we got the bus to school. By the time I got to school, I had about £3.50 in my pocket, and I was like, I'm gonna dine like a king
this
today.
This is king dining.
Yeah. So that was like very, very early days. I had dabbled with a few little miniature businesses on the side, nothing of like any great scale. And then I went to university when I had the YouTube channel, and I started to learn a little bit more about how you were going to set up a company, you were going to launch a brand, and I already had Supercars of London at that point. So when I came out of uni and I'd graduated, I was like, right, now this is the time to like kickstart things. I feel like I'm right at the beginning of the wave, but what I want to be doing is be at the top of the wave when this all kicks off. So all I've got to do is get there. So my number one goal was to just try and infiltrate my business to already existing automotive companies. Sure. So that's where the consultancy company came from, because I knew how to run social media, I knew how to do Twitter, I knew how to do Facebook, I knew how to do Instagram, I knew how to do YouTube. So I would go to the automotive companies and I'd say, look, this is what I do. This is what I can do for you. Let's do something. And at that time, you were like not even being paid minimum wage to do this sort of stuff.
Sure.
Like, it was monthly retainers that collectively were quite successful, but individually completely useless. So there was a lot of work that I had to do whilst trying to maintain my YouTube channel alongside that. One of the big moments that I had with Supercars of London was when I changed the Instagram page away from my own content and turned it into a sharing platform. Because I was like, well, Supercars of London, it's got about 90,000 followers. I get tagged a lot by people that want to be seen on the Supercars of London page, and I can't keep posting my photos. I can't keep getting fresh content. And also, there are much better photographers out there than me. So I turned it into this photo sharing page, and I was like, I'm just going to make sure that every photographer gets credited for their content. They get a little bit of a boost because they're on a page with 90,000 followers, and I get the content. It was a win-win situation, and that's still how it exists to today. And it's great. It's nearly on 1 million followers. It gets fantastic engagement. Every now and again I throw in a photo of something that I'm doing, but more often than not it's London Supercars. And it was actually Tim, who told me one of the biggest tips that transformed my YouTube channel, which was turn the camera around. So for the first 5 years, I was filming the cars. And I remember we were on Sloane Street in Isleworth back in the day.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember Isleworth. Yeah, I remember.
So we were in Isleworth, and he had just discovered this world of video blogging, where he would talk about a car that he was stood next to.
Sure.
And he said to me, he was like, honestly, if you talk to the camera about the car that you're with, I guarantee you'll get more views. And I was like, oh my God, like, what will my school friends think? I'm like this nerdy kid on YouTube talking about cars. So I came up with this idea of my first supercar. The journey of trying to find that perfect first supercar if you're looking for that. And collaborated with a rental company back in the day and started to talk on camera. And if you go back to those videos, it's like, hello, my name's Paul. Like, I was so nervous, but not about the actual viewer. I was nervous about what my friends would think. So it was getting over that barrier and kind of putting myself out there, and then realizing, actually, this is all right. No one's being nasty to me, actually, and everyone that I went to school with hasn't messaged me. So I'm going to carry on with this.
Sure.
So I became, I would say, more comfortable on camera. Don't get me wrong, like, I'm still out filming in public feeling incredibly awkward. I don't think you'll ever get over whipping out a camera.
People will never ever understand the feeling of when you're walking down Sloane Street or near a tractor, wherever you are, and you're a guy looking into a little black box, talking and acting as if you're talking to a million people. Even though you are literally talking to a million people, you go, thanks so much for watching. And people say, who's watching?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Talking yourself.
What's that fluffy thing on top of your camera?
A lot of abuse gets
and as soon as I think I started to tell my own story, what I am proud of is that I've kind of shown that with hard work and a passion for something, you can get what you have been dreaming, if that makes sense. So when I was a kid at school, I wouldn't be listening to the teacher. I'd literally be staring out and I could see the road there, and I would just daydream that a Lamborghini was driving past, and I was in the Lamborghini. I was turning up to school driving the Lamborghini. And I was like, all I was doing was daydreaming that. And I had no idea how I was going to do it. I had no idea what the plan was. All I knew was one day that was going to be me. And like, I came from a pretty normal family, normal jobs. My mum worked in a playgroup and my dad was working for the council. They went off and did their job. Like, I played tennis, I played football. I was just a very, very like normal kid that found something that he loved at the right time, and it's turned into this, and we're here now, like, in a crazy time. And I'm just really excited about the world getting back to normal, everything healing, and we're able to go out, road trip, and go back and enjoy driving again.
Yeah.
Because that's really like...
And that is, it's a big part, because as much as it's great driving around the M25, sometimes it's nice to go out to the south of France. Only sometimes, but the M25 is great.
When you know the weather's going to be good down there,
Yeah.
which is more often than not.
The M25 or France?
Both.
Yeah. So, finally, is there anything A, you want to promote, and B, you'd like for people to take away from this video, whether it be a message, whether it be something for them to think about?
Got like nothing to promote other than
Supercars of London. Go check out Supercars of London. You're probably only saying it to 3,000 people, but go check out Supercars of London.
I think the message that I think is quite key is don't feel like the world of social media is a closed book, because I know that we had that conversation as well. And I think no matter how old you are, how many subscribers you have, it's very easy to compare yourself with people that have these huge numbers, and you're kind of thinking, I'm so far away from getting there, am I ever going to get there? When in reality, if you focus on what you love, and if you focus on making sure that you're proud of the content that you're posting, because that's one thing that still sticks true to me. If I'm editing the video and I'm happy with how it's turned out and I'm proud of uploading it to my channel, then that is the best recipe for a YouTube channel and content. And I think also take advantage of some of the trends with TikTok and what's going on with Instagram and YouTube. So I think if you've got a passion for something, then there is definitely a way for you to monetize that and turn your dreams into a reality of some sort.
Brilliant. It's very true. It's very, very true. No, awesome. Well, once again, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. And go check out Supercars of London if you're not already. And I'll catch you guys very soon. Thanks.
See you later.
See you later.
Cheers, mate.